Hello, this is your host, Mr. Amazing, back with another video. Today we're going to talk about 15 of the creepiest haunted houses. Our first house is the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri. We start strong with a very scary house. The Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, which is known to be one of the most haunted places in America due to a tragic history. This 33-room home was built in the 1860s by William Lemp, a successful brewery owner who ended up killing himself in 1904 after the youngest of his four sons, Frederick, died. A few years later, his wife also died of cancer in the house. Then in 1922, William Lemp Jr. shot himself in the same room William Sr. killed himself. As if that weren't enough tragedy for one place, in 1949, Charles Lemp, William's third son, shot his dog in the basement of the home. That same year, the house was sold and transformed into a boarding house. The reports of hauntings began, according to Destination Red. Witnesses have experienced burning sensations and slamming doors and seen spirits floating around. Today, the Lemp Mansion is a restaurant that you can visit. It's also an inn that holds events. On some Sunday nights, the inn holds murder and mystery events. Well, that was our first one. That was the Lemp Mansion. So how's it going on this Sunday night? You enjoying your weekend? Ready for some scary stories about haunted mansions? I hope you're enjoying it. Now, next we have a really creepy house for you. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. And no, this is not advertising. This is just me being thirsty. Our next creepy house is the Valeska Axe Murder House in Valeska, Idaho. On June the 10th, 1912, Josiah and Sarah Moore were bludgeoned to death inside their home in Valeska, Idaho. Their four children and two friends who were spending the night were also killed. To this day, the crime remains a mystery. Their home is considered one of the most haunted houses in the country, and guests are drawn to it. People even pay up to $400 just to stay one night. Tours have been cut short by children's voices, falling lamps, moving ladders, and flying objects, says the Valeska Axe Murder House website. In 2014, a paranormal investigator stabbed himself after spending the night. Skeptics have left believers, the website says. I don't know about you folks, but I don't particularly want to spend the night in an axe murdering house. Not really my cup of tea, I have to say. Have you ever seen a ghost? Have you ever experienced anything creepy in real life yourselves? I believe that ghosts do exist, in a way. I do think they're kind of, how would you put it? They're like, I'm not sure how to phrase this. It's like a past experience. It's like seeing an image from the past. The ghost might actually be real. It's just an image from the past stuck in time. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that very well, but that's how I feel. Okay. Now, time for our next house on the list. I'm sorry if my sound isn't that great. I don't have a good microphone. I'm only new to live streaming. But hopefully you can at least hear it. This is our next house, the Jean Harlow House in Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles is one of the best destinations for haunted houses and hauntings. and its Bavarian-style home in Beverly Hills has a particularly gruesome history. In 1932, it was home to the iconic actress Jean Harlow and her abusive husband, Paul Byrne. Paul Byrne shot himself in the head standing in front of the mirror. A butler discovered him and called MGM instead of the police, MGM being the company that Jean Harlow worked for, the film company. So there were tons of rumours that it wasn't actually suicide. Many suspected Byrne's ex-girlfriend, a suspicion which was pretty much brought to the forefront for her jumping off a boat to her death a couple of days later. Jean moved out after his death, but she died only a few years later at the age of 26. It gets creepier. In 1963, celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring bought the home and lived there with his girlfriend Sharon Tate, and she left him for Roman Polanski. They were still friends, and remained so until both of them were murdered by Charlie Manson cult. Tate was the same age as Harlow when she passed away. But back to when the couple lived in the Harlow house, Tate told several friends of creepy occurrences in the home, and even mentioned it in interviews. For example, once when she was sleeping in the master bedroom alone, she saw a creepy little man. Her friends say she believed this to be Paul Byrne's ghost. She was so freaked out when she saw the alleged ghost that she ran out of the room and then saw a hanging shadowy corpse with his throat slit in the hallway. There are also stories about two other people dying in the swimming pool over the years. As if ghosts alone weren't creepy enough, then you have Charles Manson cults as well. It doesn't get much more creepier than that now, does it? Feel free to share your own ghost stories in the comment section. Don't forget to give it a like or subscribe. Hit the notification bell, all the usual stuff. And now we can talk about our next house, if you're ready. The Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff, Arizona. The Hotel Monte Vista has numerous paranormal guests you can't get rid of. The hotel, which opened as the Community Hotel in 1927, named after the townspeople who helped raise the funds for its construction, has a history of underground opium dens, speakeasies, and gambling. Today the hotel is known for the paranormal activity that haunts some of the rooms and halls. Guests who stayed in room 220 have particularly experienced some hauntings, like the TV changing channels of its own accord, and some have said that they feel cold hands touching them in their sleep. There's also reportedly a phantom bellboy who knocks on doors and announces "room service." But when guests get to the door, there's nobody there, of course. One of the most popular and possibly most disturbing encounters is the sound of an infant crying in the basement. The hotel website reads, "Staff have found themselves running upstairs to escape the sound of the cries." Though the sounds are very real to those who hear them, there has been no information that explains this phenomenon. Have you ever stayed in a hotel or similar that you've seen a ghost in? Or have you heard something interesting that sounds creepy? I've never had a hotel experience like that, but I have had some house experiences. I once stayed in a house where I swear to God I saw a ghost walking through a wall. This wall had a section that used to be a door, but it was bricked up to be made part of the wall, and I could swear I saw a figure walking through it. Multiple people saw this figure, not just me. So, explain that. Okay, we get on to the next house in a second. After I stop advertising beers. Now, our next creepy haunted house is Myrtle's Plantation in St. Franceville, Louisiana. Rumored to be on top of a burial ground, the Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana, which is home to at least 12 different ghosts. Built in 1769, ghost stories centered around the tales of an enslaved woman named Chloe, who had her ear chopped off after she was reportedly caught eavesdropping. Seeking revenge, Chloe killed two of the master's daughters by poisoning a birthday cake. She then hanged herself by sorry, she was then hanged by our fellow enslaved people, and today is reportedly seen wandering the plantation with a turban on, concealing her ear. You can stay at the plantation. You charge around $175 a night, I believe. So you may see for yourself these creepy things, hopefully. And now we get on to one which some would say is more cursed than haunted, but it still kind of fits what we're talking about. It fits the narrative. More cursed than haunted, downtown LA's Hotel Cecil got such a bad rap that it actually changed its name to Stay on Main. If you're a true crime and paranormal superfan, you've probably already heard of it, so where to begin? So many bad things have happened here, there's actually an entire Wikipedia page dedicated to its violent history. The first recorded death by suicide was in 1931, followed by a long string of similar deaths in 32, 34, 35, 37, 38, 39, and 40. At some point in the 30s, one man was pinned to an exterior wall by a truck, a woman murdered her newborn in the building in 1944. The pattern of suicides continued into the 60s, all through the 50s, 40s, 60s. In 62, a woman jumped from the ninth floor window and landed on a pedestrian. This killed them both. It's worth noting that two of the women who died by suicide apparently jumped while their husbands were asleep in the room. In 64, a tenant called Goldie Osgood was brutally murdered, a crime which has remained unsolved to this day. Next, in the 80s, the infamous serial killer Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, stayed at the hotel. In the 90s, another serial killer, Australian serial killer Jack Unterweger, lived there. Other weird things kept happening, but the weirdest is definitely the disappearance and death of 21-year-old traveller Elise Lam. A few weeks after Lam went missing, her body was discovered in a rooftop water tank after visitors and tenants complained about a funky taste. He later found odd footage of her in the elevator from the night of her disappearance. It's quite difficult to make out what she was doing. It looks like she was either playing hide and seek with someone outside the elevator, or she was frightened and attempting to hide from someone, but the doors won't seem to shut. Authorities have ruled the death accidental drowning, but because you need a key to access the roof, many suspect foul play. So what do you think happened in this creepy hotel? Do you have any idea what might have happened in this creepy hotel? Now, we've been mostly talking about American-based places, so let's move away from America for at least one. We're going to go to Taiwan, and incidentally, unlikely if any Chinese viewers are watching, ni hao. That means hello in Chinese, by the way, in Mandarin Chinese. I speak a little bit of Mandarin Chinese, not a lot. Okay, this one is called the Liu Family Mansion, and it's in Taiwan. Built in 1929 in Baroque style, the Ming Shan Ghost House, aka the Liu Family Mansion, is a place with a heartbreaking history. Located in the Taiwanese countryside, it's been abandoned since around the 1950s, when the family fled abruptly. Like all mysterious places, plenty of lore around the family, and why they left the once beautiful place. Local legend says the maid was having an affair with her employer, Liu Rongyu, and when the secret came out, she jumped down the well to her death. But since she did not live to tell the tale, who's to say another family member didn't push her? Then she came back to haunt the family after they finally left, as the local legends say. A few years later, it was occupied by members of the Kuomintang China, KMT, many of whom were also thought to have died of suicide. This, of course, built its reputation up as a haunted place. People who visit report plenty of ghostly sightings. Well, are you enjoying these creepy house facts? Halloween's coming soon, so there's going to be plenty of ghostly stuff on the channel over the next week or so, leading up to Halloween. Of course, Halloween's not the same this year. You know, the way the world's going at the moment. Who knows if we'll be able to trick or treat, right? Maybe we have to social distance this year. But hey, we can still have some creepy fun, talk about some ghosts, watch some scary films. What would Halloween be without some scary films? Okay. Now, this is the Las Vegas murder mansion in Los Angeles, California. During the mid-20th century, this large Las Vegas home was the seemingly happy home of Doctor Harold Harrelson and his family until the horrific night of December 6, 1959, when he murdered his wife in her sleep with a ball-pen hammer and attempted to murder his three children before drinking acid to kill himself. Fortunately, his eldest daughter let out a scream when he struck her in the head, waking up the younger children. He then walked into the hallway to find out what was going on. During the commotion, all three kids were able to flee. Before the murder suicide, he was a successful doctor who invented a new type of syringe after investing most of his money into his research and production. But he got screwed out of the rights, leading investigators to blame financial problems. Other creepy details include a passage of Dante's Divine Comedy left open on his bedside table. 2 years later, it was sold to a family called the Enriquez family. He used it as a storage unit, and her son continued to do so until he sold it to a couple in 2016. They planned to fix it up, but it seems to have scared them off, because within a few years it's on the market again. Photographers also report a feeling of needing to run away from the house anytime you get close to it. Well, I'm enjoying these creepy house facts. Now moving away again from America for a while, because America has a lot of haunted places, but it's not the only country in the world. We're going to move on to Italy for a few minutes. The Villa di Fici in Italy is foreboding, alright. Just consider that it has looming fog most of the time. Located near Lake Como, Italy, the House of Witches, as is known, dates back to 1854 to 1857 approximately. That's the time period when it was built as a summer house for Count Felix di Vici. The family was only able to spend a few years there, as their lives were mired in tragedy right after it was built. First, the architect who designed the house died a year after construction. Then in 1862, the Count himself came home to discover his wife murdered, his daughter missing. When he could not find her after a year of searching, he died as well by suicide. His brother then moved into the home, and his family continued to live there until around World War II. It's been vacant since the 1960s, and an avalanche in 2002 wiped out all the houses in the entire area except this house. The avalanche completely avoided this house. Now, if that's not spooky, I don't know what is. Even an avalanche doesn't want to come near your house. Okay, we'll move back to the United States for a minute for the next one. Next, we got the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. In 1937, millionaire inventor Norman G. Baker posed as a doctor and turned the hotel into a hospital. He said he would be able to cure cancer. Does this start to give you the chills yet? Baker, who had a fetish for purple, painted many sections of the hospital in this colour, and today the chimneys remain the same colour. In addition to wearing purple shirts and ties, he drove a purple car. People came from all over with hopes of curing their cancer, and many who were treated, and we use treated in inverted commas, died straight away. Eventually Baker was exposed and ran out of town, and today the property is an active hotel. It's said to be haunted by several ghosts of the victims of Baker, who died during the treatment, including a bearded man wearing the Victorian clothing and a 5-year-old girl. It's really some creepy places, isn't there? You can dispute ghosts exist, you can say they exist, who knows? Talking about them is always fun, I think. Now, how about the Mizpah Hotel in Tonopah, Nevada? In 1907, this hotel opened as one of 5 first luxury hotels in Nevada. With a rich history and elaborate decor, the hotel is best known for its legend of the Lady in Red. While the date remains unclear, the story goes like this. A woman was murdered in her room on the 5th floor. Some say it was a jealous ex-boyfriend. Others say the Lady in Red had been caught cheating by her husband and he killed her in a jealous rage. Those who have stayed at the hotel say the Lady in Red whispers in men's ears and leaves pearls from a broken necklace on ladies' pillows. Guests can stay in the Lady in Red room to experience it for themselves, but if that's too much for you, the Red Lady Bloody Mary at the hotel restaurant might just do it for you. And now, next we have coming a creepy asylum, because of course you can't talk about creepy houses without at least one asylum on it. This asylum is called the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia. This asylum was designed to house around 250 patients when it opened in 1864, but fast forward to the 1950s when the facility reached its peak and had more than 2,400 patients living in overcrowded, inhumane conditions, some kept in cages. In 1994, this asylum was finally closed down by the authorities, and today there are reports of paranormal activity, with souls of patients lingering and roaming the halls. You can take an overnight ghost hunt tour, starting at 9 p.m., lasting till 5 a.m. at the asylum, or a 2-hour tour from 10:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m., or even a 90-minute day tour. I fully recommend visiting this haunted asylum to see a part of history. Who knows, you might even bump into something that goes bump in the night. All this talking is thirsty work. You'll have to excuse me. And there we go to what many people call the capital of America, New York. Of course, it's not the actual capital, but a lot of people think of it as being like that. The Merchant House Museum in New York, or New York, to give it its full title, the city so good they named it twice. Seen as is the only preserved and intact family home from the 19th century in the entire of New York City, it makes sense that this house also has been the source and subject of many ghost stories. The Treadwell family home lived here for over 100 years, and the last family occupant was Gertrude, the youngest daughter, who died in the home in 1923. Staff, visitors, passers-by, even people outside on the street passing by, that's correct, say they experience weird, disembodied things here. If you don't buy it, take a candlelit ghost tour of the museum to decide for yourself. And even if you don't catch an apparition out of the corner of your eye, or hear children playing on floorboards in empty rooms, you at least get the sense that you're intruding on someone else's space in a completely different time, since it's virtually the same as when Gertrude died. So what kind of creepy films are you going to be watching for Halloween? Do you have plans to watch anything interesting? Hopefully you do. Okay. Well, we still have 2 more houses to talk about. The next one on the list is the Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco, California. In 1890, the Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco was an etiquette school for girls. Today it has 48 rooms for guests. Though some believe the ghost of Miss Mary Lake, the school's headmistress, still lingers. Folks who stay in room 410, which was Miss Mary Lake's former office, have woken up to find their blankets closely tucked around them in bed, or their clothes unpacked. This ghost doesn't seem to want to harm anyone. It seems to want to tuck them in at night and help them have a more comfortable sleep. Because not all ghosts are that creepy. Sometimes ghosts can be friendly and helpful. Okay, folks. I've saved what I think is the best for last. You've all heard of Lizzie Borden. I'm sure you have. Anyone who's familiar with ghosts or interested in ghosts probably heard of the Lizzie Borden house. This house in Fall River, Massachusetts. In 1892, Lizzie Borden was the main suspect for the axe murders of her father and stepmother. Borden was tried but acquitted of the murders, and guests who visit Lizzie's house in Fall River, saying she could be heard cackling about it. Others say that you can sometimes hear maids screaming for help, and that Lizzie slaughtered parents stalk the grounds. You can experience the paranormal activity yourself, because there's a Lizzie Borden museum and a bed and breakfast beside it. But hopefully you won't wake up with an axe in your head. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this brief video about some haunted houses, some interesting houses. And we will talk to you again soon. Have a very amazing day. This is your host, Mr. Amazing, saying goodbye.